Hi, so this is our next video in our EBI seminar series. Today's topic is diversity and entrepreneurship. And I have with me Chaeyoung Shin, who is a founder and CEO of Sugarlogix. And I'll let Chaeyoung talk about her background and introduce her company.
Thanks for having me, Simon. Hi, everyone. My name is Chaeyoung Shin. I'm the founder and CEO at Sugarlogix. And at Sugarlogix, we make human milk oligosaccharides, or HMOs, for infant nutrition. HMOs are highly functioning prebiotics naturally found in human breast milk. And we are using biotechnology to recreate those HMOs with the goal of adding them back into infant formula so that formula can provide similar nutrition as human milk.
Very cool. And we can get started. So what does diversity in entrepreneurship mean to you?
It means a lot. And in short, it's a must-have. It's a requirement for every future companies to keep in mind, not just in the pure sense of being inclusive to people from all diverse backgrounds, which is very important, but also in the sense of creating a very robust and strong business. Strong and innovative businesses are created from having a lot of different creative minds come around the table, not just having a same profile of a person over and over again. So that diversity of thought, of culture, of innovation is ultimately what is going to drive companies to be successful. So it's a must-have.
Mhm. And what are some of the main roadblocks in the call for greater diversity in entrepreneurship that you see today?
Um, so the major roadblock would be the first source of funding. So I am part of many different founder communities, and there actually isn't a big lack of founders with diverse backgrounds when companies are first created. But then I see a lot of founders that come from diverse backgrounds get screened, or their companies get screened as they go through the cycles of raising early stage capital, usually in the form of pre-seed rounds, seed rounds. And that, I think, is because in those early companies, there's basically only usually a seed of thought that that constitutes a company. So instead of revenues or business forecasts, it's oftentimes a founder that investors look toward in order to make their investment decisions. And living in this modern society of where there isn't that much diversity currently in the profiles of companies that are considered successful, I think investors are somewhat subconsciously preconditioned to select for founders who sort of fit more of the traditional or conventional or already existing persona of founders that are already out there and are defined as successful. So that first screening of the founders, I think it is actually a major roadblock for a lot of diverse founders.
Mhm. And in the past few years, diversity and inclusion has become a major topic of discussion for many companies and businesses. Do you think the culture in entrepreneurship and or STEM is changing to become more inclusive to entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds? Why or why not?
Mm-hmm. Well, as you mentioned, Simon, the sheer fact that it is becoming a major topic of discussion, I think that points us to say, yes, indeed, things are changing. Because in order for this change to happen, people have to be aware of this challenge and problem that exists currently. And I feel like there's a lot of awareness around this issue, which I think is a positive sign that things are starting to change. Now, because we're not living in a simulation-like world, we can't simply just replace all the existing founders and entrepreneurs and change their diversities, but rather it's the new and upcoming founders that are just being born and starting their entrepreneurial journey that probably will benefit from the society being more aware of this diversity issue. So it'll take some time for the entire change to happen, but things are certainly moving in the positive direction.
Mhm. And how would you say that diversity in leadership roles in entrepreneurship compares to diversity on the employee level?
Mhm. Um, I think because a lot of these major discussions are publicly available, I think all of society is or can be exposed to it. There's a lot of questions around diversity in the STEM fields, for instance. I think awareness is rising, not just from the founder side and the entrepreneur side, but also in the many different departments within companies as well.
Hmm. And do you feel like the lack of diversity in startups is also due to maybe certain minority populations just not being introduced to startups or really considering it as a career choice?
Yeah. Entrepreneurship being a career choice, and I guess the awareness that this option is available is I think quite public. But there are major roadblocks, I guess, when it comes to a person making a personal choice in deciding to either work for a startup company or to start their own companies. And those personal decisions are often related to personal circumstances and backgrounds. For instance, as a startup founder, you would have to be very comfortable with the fact that you might not have sufficient income or very unstable income for the first couple or few years. And I think that fact and the fact that people have to stomach that self-selects for a certain demographic of the population who are only able to make those choices comfortably. And then on the other side too, for us as a deep tech company, the premise of starting a deep tech company is that you understand a lot of the technology behind it. So in a way, starting up a deep tech company entails that you have a certain educational background, which I think, unfortunately, in our current world, self-selects for a certain demographic, and it's skewed.
Hmm. And what do you think is the most powerful way for startups and new companies to promote diversity in their spaces for their employees?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this answer is also relevant for VC investors who are trying to interview and listen to pitches from founders as well. But I think our minds are subconsciously programmed in certain ways. So I think awareness and emphasizing your subconscious bias to lean towards certain demographics and etc. Those just have to be you just have to be mindful of those and also create structures in the rubric, for instance, that lets you really makes you really think about the diversity questions. Because ultimately, like I said in the very beginning, it would that having diversity around the table would help you create a better company because it will bring more innovation. And it's, I guess, diversity isn't just about how you look or how you talk. And it's more about how you think and what other types of different aspects of the world that are not being represented inside the company versus it's out there in the real world. It really needs to be thought through carefully, and you have to be mindful and conscious about the structure-wise decisions that you make to catch these pitfalls.
Hmm. Okay. And our final question is, what words of advice do you have for other minorities looking to get involved in entrepreneurship?
Um, yeah, so I have less than 5 years of experience in this startup world. So hopefully, I think that the different pieces of advice that the list will grow in the future. But currently, I have two. One is that in your everyday life of running a business and growing the business, pitching to investors, having conversations with your potential business partners, don't think about the stats. I mean, of course, you should be aware of the stats. They of how skewed or how underrepresented certain demographics are in the entrepreneurial world. But when you are running a business, really don't think about it, because it's not, it won't help you create a better business. And ultimately, even if you have the right looks, have the right backgrounds, and talk the right way, you have to build a successful business in order to be successful in the startup world. So
Mhm.
the stats won't help you really think about that. So focus on the business.
Mhm.
Um, the second piece of advice that I am able to provide today is just about your mindset, and think about the advantages of being a minority founder. Now it's a bleak world. The stats look very bleak, but I do think that there are some upsides of being a founder that is not normally as well represented in the startup world. So in the beginning of my career, I also tried to look for role models in the startup world, and tried to sort of fit my persona into their persona. And
Mhm.
I've sort of tried to project a lot of those Elon Musk like vibes,
Mhm.
that's to say. But then I quickly realized that it was a very uncomfortable fit for me. And there are certain ways that I can't change about myself to look like those types of founders. And with that came the realization that there is actually no defined success role model for what a young female Asian founder looks like. And with that realization came the realization that I have a lot of freedom. And that was really motivating, and uh, that made a lot of my work fun for me, because I feel like I am setting the definition of what a successful entrepreneur looks like, who looks like me. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, maybe thinking about that freedom, and thinking about innovative ways on how you can really take advantage of that extra degree of freedom could be a major upside when you are running a business.
Mhm. I think that's a really beautiful way to put it. Thank you, Chaeyoung, for your time today. Yeah, thank you for participating.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for checking out the EBI Seminar Series. If you enjoyed the series, please like this video and subscribe to the EBI YouTube channel for more content on entrepreneurship and biotech. All of our social media will also be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for watching!